as the invasion carriers and their escorts left Seoul on the way to the Lefande system. Bill and Aya couldn't do anything but wait. Wait, worry, and of course work. Work on finishing up their new ship. A ship that is action-packed with amenities to make it a home worth actually staying in, but also a warship with all the latest tech available. With the new Aya almost ready, she will be the most advanced battleship in humanity's creation, at least so far. Once she clears the dock, there will be no more ships produced from that dock for a while. Instead, it will be creating sections to make additional space docks. With both of his space docks in working order, he could create as many ships as entire governments are creating right now. Yet, Bill has a better idea. One of his docks will, in fact, continue to build ships, while the other focuses on creating 3 more additional space docks. Each of these will be upgraded and upgradable so that they can produce the best possible ships. His entire family is already bringing in salvage from the debris fields that now cover entire sectors of space, yet they still have to finish the new Aya. A process that had gone so slow that even a snail would turn around behind and go, "Hey, hurry the hell up," to a process that came in so fast that they're actually now ahead of schedule. As the ship is finished, Bill asked the former crew if they would actually like to return and renew their contracts, of course. Though all his Foxy crew had actually decided to go back home to aid in reclamation efforts, and his human crew actually preferred to aid other groups and governments instead, Bill and Aya, they just weren't worried at all. The amount of automation that went in the ship meant that even a smaller crew would even be able to function well beyond operational capacity. When checking on the crew members that's left, Bill made sure to give them glowing recommendations before they walked out the door. And, of course, a healthy severance package. In particular, a human female crewmate that wanted to leave and have a family on Earth received a very large surprise. A customized Corvette-class transport, one set up for luxury so that she, her husband, and her, as she wants to have a high number of children, can actually travel in complete comfort to whichever colony they want. Aya actually delivered this ship personally and had some words of advice and encouragement for the new mother-to-be, and before she left, she took a picture of the two of them in front of the brand new Corvette, a picture which, incidentally, is now hanging on the fridge in the new ship. With Aya's new personal body of a ship finally finished, and she was finally able to plug herself in, this is usually a simple process that usually makes them simply slouch, as the android body no longer has the AI in it. Instead, this time when she plugged herself in, the beaten android body that she had only made some repairs to simply fell over. The resulting impact broke the android into tiny little chunks, and with the head sliding across the room, this made Bill visually upset. Rightfully so, and Aya realized what she had just done. So to calm Bill down, she decided to talk to him in her digital form, minus her exterior coverings. This time, she was not a simple 1-foot-tall image that seemed to be floating only an inch or two above the console, but a full body standing in front of Bill, looking up into his eyes. She joked about how the new ship is so smooth as she moved her hands around, and how its functions and its mobility are all while being so suggestive in the way she speaks, not even changing her tone when Cindy walks onto the bridge, takes a look over, and immediately goes, "Mom." Aya barely turns towards Cindy and says, "Calm down, honey. I mean, come on. I know I'm an AI, that's a certainty, but I'm a woman too." Cindy, trying to shade her eyes just a little bit as she's walking forward. "I get it. But the idea of one's parents engaging in... well, it's just universally gross to all their children." Aya seemed to find this amusing. It wasn't so embarrassing when I caught you with that foxy male. What was his name? Mom, seriously. Aya, turning away from Bill for a moment, says, if I remember correctly, and I always do, you just looked at me and said, unless you're going to join, close the door. Bill immediately snapped, what? Cindy replied, it was nothing, Daddy. Can we please change the subject? To what? Bill said. Cindy, composing herself as fast as she can, said, I just arrived with the next load of salvage, a full load this time, and there's a high amount of AI and crew species salvaged, but just not as many as we hoped. It looks like those flyboys, which is a slang for fleet crewmen, got a bit overzealous. If you promised an AI to anyone, then you're going to want to tell them they're going to have to wait and hold back. Bill replied, I understand. As for crew, are they still in stasis or not? Cindy looked at her pad and said, 71% in stasis. The rest are in quarantine, and the docs are putting them back together, unfortunately. They are still skittish as all get out, though. Bill asked, do you have a reason why? Cindy looks up, takes a breath, and said, seems like the bullshit they fed the crews that, well, it's total BS that we enjoy the taste. I mean, they're not wrong in a certain context, but the crew species are now so scared of us that they actually pee themselves when we walk in. We have to constantly clean the place. Bill tried to hide his amusement in Cindy's words as he said, now those being suggestive in their words, so is it safe to assume the crew species medics are fixing them up? Cindy replied, anyone that is not human. At least as long as they're not human, we're fine. Bill calmed down and said, good. Now, as far as your salvage, once Aya is ready to go, we are out of this space dock. We're going to move the ship immediately. And it won't take more than 30 hours once we get the next ship started to make sure you have enough room to drop your loads. Cindy's eyes got really wide. 30 hours? That's a long time to wait. What am I going to do until then? Bill responded with, how about you give yourself and your crew a break? We know you work hard. You're a workaholic, but focusing only on work almost destroyed entire cultures on Earth. You know this. I told you about the ones that were there before you were born and how it tore them apart. Cindy lowered her head and said, I understand. I guess I'll just have to wait on the bridge for those hours. Aya chimed in saying, remember what I said about too much time alone. You have a partner that needs some attention after all. I'm sure that she would enjoy hanging out with you for the next 29.9 hours. Am I right? She turned her head and the image of Monica actually appears. This time, instead of the small image, she is also full size, standing just as tall as Cindy is. Monica says, she's right. Besides, you seem fully relaxed the last time we... Okay, Cindy chimed in. I'm leaving. Call me when you're ready, okay? As she went to walk out, Bill yelled at her, hey, are you forgetting something? Cindy turns, walks over, and gives Bill a hug. And while she does, he whispers in her ear, I'm very proud of you, and I want you to never, ever forget that. This raised her mood a little bit. Aya watched Cindy leave, and as she does, realized that Cindy is so wound up tight, and immediately says, she's such a sweet girl, but she's in more dire need of a muff job than any white chick in history. Once Bill stopped laughing, he cleared everything with Aya, and the ship finally detached from the moorings. As the massive hexagonal flying brick slowly moved forward out of the space dock, Bill stands on the bridge looking out across the sensors. He has to do this because the bridge is at the heart of the ship, so he watches the monitors. He can see everything, thankfully, is green across the board. As they fully exit the dock, Bill wonders for a second if he could possibly crank the engines to 120%, catch up to the carrier fleet. before his thoughts could entertain it even further, he realizes that he must have been mumbling, or somebody was thinking the same thing, as he hears a female voice standing behind him saying, "So, what do you think?" Bill turns around and sees Aya's new body. She now stands at exactly 6 feet tall, which is not exactly Bill's height, as he's 6'4". Her physique is that of an extremely well-toned body without being bulky. The only thing bulk is in certain firm and perky areas that are accentuated by the white and silver hair that drape all the way down her green body all the way to the top of her butt and stretch down across her front. Those piercing blue eyes still looking clear into Bill's soul. Bill sees this, looks up and down, and staggers for a second, and just can't believe the view as Aya steps forward. She reaches around to give him a hug, squishing herself up against him, and says, "I know you would like to take this ship into battle, chase down the invasion forces, to put the ship through its paces and all that, to prove your mettle, but I can't get us there in time. I've run the numbers already, and since you are insistent on working out your frustrations, I can think of a more enjoyable way to deal with it than invading a planet." After some time, the Aya ship is collecting salvage with other ships in the Sol sector, and everybody is surprised by the movements. It's strange, as Aya is having trouble keeping focus on piloting the ship. While she is, they can tell by the timeline that the invasion fleet should be reaching the Lefande sector. When the fleets arrived in system, they jumped a lot closer to the contested planets than anyone would think, though being close to the gravity wells caused all the crew members to get sprawled out all over their restraints, pulled in one direction or another really hard. This does actually allow for all the weapons of the assault fleet to engage almost instantly, even down to tertiary weapons. At first, they only aim for the bridge and the engine compartments. This is fairly easy since the enemy ships were completely caught off guard and flat-foot. As they advance, the carriers are actually held in the rear of the formation. Reason being, despite their size, they are very fragile craft. The human fleets continue their relentless assault across the 4 planets in the sector to clear off anyone who might be a threat to the carriers. The enemy, once realizing the situation, tried to call for assistance. What they didn't see was the stealth interdiction. Though these ships are relatively limited on weaponry and armor, their ability to hide from the sensors proves that the enemy haven't figured out this little stealth trick either. The heavy-hitting dreadnoughts and battleships get the most kills. Anything small just has to cover the flanking attack or a simple charge into the formation. As they see the enemy ships turn, everybody thinks the enemy will once again charge the human lines. Instead, they run for it. The smaller human ships, from cruisers to corvettes, are able to stop most of them from jumping away, and then, once the battle is over in space, they immediately switch to search and rescue operations. While the smaller ships clean up, looking for survivors, crew, AI, and anything that might be a problem, the bulk of the fleet take position over the contested planet. As they do, everyone is concerned about how easy it seemed to take space away from these enemies. In truth, they receive more damage from rogue debris than the enemy weapons fire at this point. It should be noted that 3 of these planets were just starting terraforming operations when they got attacked, and actually didn't need a full invasion. All 3 planets surrendered, which made things easy because there was only a handful of their own people that were planetside. These enemy forces know they can't escape. No matter what direction they try, they'll just get blasted down. So they tried to barter with the few crew species that they actually had on planet. They wanted to barter for safe passage. After hours upon hours of begging, a deal was struck. A contingent of human ships descended down towards the planet. When they landed, they received absolutely no issue, Everyone on the ground immediately dropped to their knees and raised their hands up in a sign of surrender. The humans searched the ships to assure there was no crew species that were going to be taken. The weapons off the ships were immediately unbolted or sawed completely off so that they didn't get any funny ideas as they took off. The AI was removed and taken as intel. This mammalian species that looks like an anthropomorphized bison, just more human-looking in the females than the males, are dead ringers for minotaurs if you look close. The males are clearly upset that their ships are getting stripped as they snorted constantly, yet they held their composure as even a human medic seemed to come over and check them out, and even fixed a broken finger on one of their own, something that they didn't really have time to deal with. This is what truly made them calm down. As they checked it out, as the ships were being stripped down, the fact that that finger was actually healed in under 5 minutes. They couldn't believe it. When they finally left, this enemy didn't say a word and they just jumped away. The crew species on the planet had to leave as the atmosphere would soon become toxic. The terraforming ships that had been on these planets were now smoldering craters, and there wouldn't be another one coming anytime soon, which means the planet's going to revert back to the way it was, completely uninhabitable. On Lefande 3, the forces on the ground dared the human fleet to face them in combat. What these walking bison didn't know is if it wasn't for the fact of the large number of crew species on the planet that remained, the humans would have just glassed the planet and called it a day. They were sent down a message in the Foxy language to surrender, which of course seemed to piss them off even more. As was clear, the carriers were being lined up. It seemed as though those on the ground were getting frustrated and dangerous. They started screaming out, "Why are you here? What do you want?" The response made them confused, as they heard a human voice come through for the first time to this planet. A message said, "It's garbage day, and we're here to take out the trash." With that, all the ships were in place. The carriers show exactly what they were built to do, as they open up the bays on either side, bays that cover the entire port and starboard sides, almost from nose to tail, which is essentially popping the top on a can of whoop-ass that is about to be poured directly onto the enemy holding this planet. In textbook fashion, as shuttles and fighters began to gush out of the sides, the first rounds of shots are sent down towards the planet. These are not pods full of angry, armored, airborne, athletic alcoholics. These are devices that keep the pod-held drivers from receiving the 11% casualties that would happen if they just all went down in pods. The first wave are decoys with defenses, electronic decoys to draw in ordnance and shoot them before they hit, and then draw even more ordnance from the ground. The next ones are jamming pods that activate and deactivate in different intervals to confuse the targeting systems of anything coming up. Once on the ground, they will actually remain active to jam the enemy comms and sensors with the same old phrase over and over again, saying raspberry, raspberry, raspberry on repeat. With the decoys now harder to hit, more ordnance will be wasted on each one of these, and with each miss on the decoys, or even a hit, that is one less ordnance that can be fired at the men. The third group is a mixture of ordnance. Those that are once inside the atmosphere, they will spray out a constant stream of flares, chaff, another round of decoys in the form of foil packs, and with these final ones mixing in with the first two volleys, there's so much reflective materials, decoys, scramblers, jammers, and so on, that even the human fleet can't even see what in the hell is going on down there. Only a few seconds after the third volley is when the heavy weapons in the form of heavily armored men in drop pods are launched. The moment these large pods, with 4 heavy armored airborne soldiers in each one, is sent, The aerospace fighters dive towards the surface to provide cover. The aerospace fighters have very limited space-based maneuverability, so they can maximize their efficiency in atmosphere. Each of them followed by 4 drone wingmen that are not stealthy, but each of them carry twice as much ordnance as the aerospace fighter can. It is of note that these fighters deployed from the base long before the first wave is dropped. When the first wave is dropped, they're actually facing down towards the planet and only need to throttle up in order to race the pods to the surface. It's actually common for people to say, "I'll race ya," right before the pods are launched. This is also true for the shuttles that are currently on standby as the carrier empties the ventral section. Once complete, the carrier closes its base and rolls all the way over like a hot dog being cooked. The moment the dorsal side is facing the planet, well, the green flag is out. An entire 2 divisions of hell-divers are sending down to the surface in less than 30 seconds. The shuttles, also facing the planet, jam their throttles and try to catch the pods. Even though the pods move way faster than even a Corvette-class shuttle can manage, it doesn't stop the pilots from pushing their ships to the absolute limit trying to keep up. Once empty, the carrier rolls once again, opens up its bays, and waits. Those on board have everything on standby and have to wait for the shuttles to return so they can patch up the wounded, load up ammo and equipment, and just keep the battle going. Unfortunately, at this point, all they can do is wait, and their phrase is, "Sometimes waiting is the worst part." And thanks to the jammers, communication breaks down immediately. Through this massive distraction, the heavy pods appear. They shatter the outer layer, spraying it out on all sides, putting more hot debris in the air for sensors to pick up and get confused by. This relieves all the heat buildup on the pods. Then, a type of metal parachute is deployed above. It's more of a stabilizer than anything else, but it does slow the pod down ever so slightly. One would say at this point, mind the bump as they approach 1000 AGL above ground level. That is when multiple parachutes deploy, all in bright colors, in a way of drawing attention away from the pod. In those moments, that is when the pod is in danger. When the pod thuds onto the ground, the chutes are instantly released so that they do not fall on the top of the pods. From the corners of the pods, fire is sprayed out from 60 napalm sprayers, and they turn left and right and up in every single direction, igniting everything within 120 feet. They don't last long, but they do burn everything. Then there's a noticeable pause afterwards, and then a massively loud boom goes off. During this boom, 8 claymore mines spray in all directions as the doors, all 4 of them, one on each side, launch away from the pod, crashing into anything in front of them. If done correctly, this will allow the heavy weapons units to climb out of their pods, which does take a few moments, extend their AI-assisted weapon systems from their back, pull up their main weapons attached to their arms, and begin the assault without being sprayed like a Higgins boat at Omaha Beach. There is not much time for them to clear the area before the next wave comes down. It should be noted that the next wave should be coming down any time between 2 and 4 minutes. In that time, they are to kill everything that even looks at them funny. The onboard AI can cut through the jammers as long as they have line of sight, meaning each of these suits is its own repeater, which means that they have comms and the enemy does not. As the heavy units move out to their phase line, the light infantry appear. They have already landed, come down in their individual pods. They have less powerful weapons, but they are a lot faster and a lot more maneuverable thanks to being in lighter armor. This allows the invasion force to push out further and faster as they clear the landing zones for the shuttles to land and begin to offload vehicles. Vehicles with better sensors, tougher armor, and even bigger guns. However, one of the most desired vehicles is actually a drone carrier. A tracked vehicle the size of an old Abrams tank, but shaped like an old 113 APC. When it opens up the top, a swarm of up to 6,000 drones the size of a human palm exit the top. They spray out in all different directions and begin to do two things: seek and destroy. When they lock onto a target, they dive towards the cranium and explode with just enough force to break through the outer shell of the skull and scramble whatever's on the inside. Under all this pressure of heavy units, lighter units, the drones, air support, and everything else, as the invasion seemed to be a tsunami of death, many of these Buffalo soldiers simply broke, realizing their weapons cannot get through most of the human armor, and watching as one shot from a human pulse rifle or ballistic rifle blew one of these large creatures in half. Seeing this, any commander worth a piss would immediately either withdraw or surrender. As the battle continues and comes to an end, though the humans are professionals, after seeing what was done to the crew species and humans that couldn't make it out, most, if not all, were severely bleeding. Many were missing limbs due to the buffalo's entertainment or pleasure by ripping one or biting one off. Some had been prepared as food as the bodies still smoldered. Worst of all were the bodies where the crew species and human had been treated like an item you would pick up at a novelty store. When the human planetary governor's body was located, it was clear what killed him. It was so obvious that this man had been passed around like a joint for all to use like a novelty. So bad that his body had literally broken right down the center. More than one human that saw this had to raise their helmet just to vomit off to the side. Only the introduction of one of the ship's captains stopped the full execution of all those who surrendered, though even the captain, when he saw everything on the ground, had to stifle his vomit, and clearly so, as he many times had to swallow it back down. The captain had to remind everybody that information is ammunition, and the prisoners are much, much more valuable alive. Everybody that had to walk over the bodies of crew, human, and even a few of the foxy species didn't take their finger off the trigger of their weapons until the main database of the Buffalo Command Post was decrypted. It was decrypted surprisingly fast by one of the AIs that was brought with them. Seeing this, the AI, one that had split itself into thousands of different pieces so that it could be with every single one of the soldiers in the division at once, this AI, named Tex, went through the files and turned towards the closest Buffalo soldier that was now in chains and happened to be the commander of the invasion force. She appeared in digital form, which happened to be an armored human, all in black, slammed one fist into the other hand and acted as though she was cracking her knuckles, moved her neck side to side as though she was popping her neck, and said, "You have no idea how much trouble you are in." Hello everybody, this is Syntax. Thank you so much for joining me today on part 12 of this ongoing series. Now before I go, I need to mention that today's winner is Erica Gem. Also, I need to send out some great big thank yous to the supporters of this channel, and those would be Prozac and Pancakes, Sir, SS Demon, Brian Kemp, MTF Guard, Guardian Sage, Erica Gem, and Joseph Blosh. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel. Everybody else, I'll see you on the next one, and if you could, hit the like button on the way out. This is your host, Syntax.
Ejecting pilot.